Hi, I'm Doug Campbell, president of the Automotive Safety Council, which is the trade association of the Tier 1, 2, and 3 auto safety suppliers. And with me today is Chris O'Connor, the CEO of Humanetics, one of our member companies. And Chris, it's great to be here with you at the annual meeting.
Well, Doug, it's a pleasure. Great to see you.
So Chris has got just a fantastic company. If you don't know what an ATD is, he's going to tell you. But exciting news, I guess, the THOR-50th and then the THOR-5F with NHTSA coming out here. So why don't you tell us about how that is compared to the old hybrid 3s that everyone has been using for the last 30 years?
Yeah, well, it's good news, bad news, because the reality is we have a crisis on our hand. We've got a disparity amongst our occupants and vehicles, and we have vulnerable occupants. So the main crash test dummy way back in the end of 1970s and early 80s was built around an average size male, and nobody's an average size male anymore, and certainly women are different than men. And we're seeing different injuries and different problems associated with not protecting them in the right way.
Yeah, I remember when I first started out, we actually had hybrid 2s, and then the 3s that came along, and we were so excited because they were so much better, but then we just kind of got stagnant for a long time. And it seems like NHTSA kind of just didn't want to move forward. I know you guys had developed the dummies, but it was like forever to get them evaluated and approved for use and all those kind of things. So that seems like it's an ongoing issue.
Well, it's unfortunate for the population, but there's obviously a lot of politics and everything that happens out there, and the car companies are powerful lobbyists as well. And so we work in this type of environment where we're trying to say, how can we make a difference?
Well, I tell you, like you said, the male population, the female population is larger now than what they were in the 1960s when the demographics that were used to make the dummies. But tell us how these THOR dummies are different than the hybrid 3s are replacing.
Yeah, so technology has really changed over the years. And if you go back to the hybrid 2s and hybrid 3s, as you had mentioned, you'll see that the sensors on there, we might have only had 20, 30 different sensors really even at the peak. Well, today we have 150 sensors in a THOR-5F. So if you look at a THOR-5F female, it was actually the first and only dummy designed specifically around a woman. So it actually addressed the injuries a woman is getting, not just the injuries a male is getting. So we're seeing differences in lower leg extremities, abdominal injuries. And so those differences, we can actually put sensors in the right places. And with those sensors, we can actually design safer vehicles to prevent those injuries in the first place.
Maybe help everybody out. When you say a THOR-5F, what you're really referring to the 5th percentile female occupant. Can you tell us a little more about what 50th means when you talk about this?
Yeah, of course. So the original crash test dummies back in the 80s were built around a 50th or the average size male. And then there was a 5th version, which is the 5th percentile, so that's the smallest size, and then a 95th percentile, which is the largest size. And all of them represent different extremes and different injuries that might be experienced. So the THOR-5F is just the 5th size. Let's just use it generically for size of people. It doesn't accurately represent 2026 size, but again, it provides a metric for us to use. And we can't do every single size, but we can have certain sizes in. So it's a smaller size, but it's representative now with the right sensors in the right areas to better reflect the injuries that a woman would have.
Yeah, I know I was looking at a chart recently, and the 50th percentile dummy is actually closer to the 27th percentile male in today's population. So it shows how in America at least, we've grown larger over the last so many decades. So obviously, if that's the case, and we're using 50th percentile male dummy to try to simulate what a male would do in a crash, are we going to make all sorts of new family of dummies for larger and larger people, or do you think simulation is going to be the key to that?
Well, of course, simulation is really the next generation that is being used, but simulation in itself is not enough, and hardware testing is not enough. So it's really the belt and suspender approach that's absolutely critical. So the hardware allows us to have 2 or 3 or 4 different sizes, but again, importantly, to have the sensors for the injuries that we're seeing. And the simulation can then morph into any version of that we would like. So that's very helpful. But remember, human body models, simulation's been around for 20, 25 years. We aren't seeing a difference on simulation alone. So just because we're using simulation doesn't mean that we're saving more lives. So if you look at today in the US, we're almost 40,000 lives lost, 2.2 million injuries. It's a significant pandemic that's happening that we really need to address. And as a group like the Auto Safety Council, what can we do to make a difference? Because getting together and talking about this is great, but almost exhaustive, right? Because if we can't make a difference and reduce fatalities and these injuries, then we're all wasting a lot of time. And we're not going to reach the goals that we've all set out to achieve, which is zero.
Yeah, I tell you, this 40,000 a year carnage we've had, it's like the public's become numb to it or something, or the government's become numb to it. It's just ridiculous. I mean, it's one of the things I admire about Euro NCAP. They went from 60,000 or over 60,000 fatalities around 2000, and they got all the way down to 19. But they were very proactive. They're doing everything you can think of, the new dummies that you produce, new technologies, rear seat safety, reminders for seat belts, new automatic braking and steering, and they've just really moved the needle, where here in America, we've just not gotten the needle forward like they have, and so I'm hoping that we can do more along those lines, because it's just ridiculous. And, you know, I'd hoped for a while, you know, we started out at like 42, and we got down to 32, and I thought, yeah, and we're trekking Euro NCAP exactly the same. And then all of a sudden they keep going down, and we turn and we go right back up to where we were, and like we've made no progress at all. So it's frustrating, but I know you've been talking to the decision makers, whether it be Congress or NHTSA or whomever, and and so am I. And we just need, as I keep telling them, we have the knowledge, we have the means, we have the technology, we just don't have the will. We just need the will to move forward and make a difference. And I'm hopeful we can move that needle with them.
Well, we live in a very political world, as you know. Europe is slightly removed from that politics because the volunteer program that they're using with NCAP really allows them to make more bold changes.
And quicker.
And quicker, and they've been able to make changes along the way. If you take a look at the last 10 to 15 years, the U.S. NHTSA has not introduced one new crash test dummy. No, not one new change. Europe has introduced several. And as a result of that, you're seeing a continued decline. So we need to change that trend. There's a lot of motions in play to make those changes happen. We have a new NHTSA administrator. We're very hopeful can do that. Hopefully doesn't get in the quagmire of politics and have everything continue to get delayed.
Yeah, I mean, Euro NCAP, they even have rear seat occupants as an example, so they're really covering the waterfront. And they've got males and females in different seating positions, where here in the States, we're pretty much just a male in the driver and sometimes a female in the passenger and nobody in the rear seat. And it's just silly that we were once the leader in auto safety in the world, and now we're almost in last place, you might say.
Well, in fact, we're still the leaders in developing new test equipment, new technologies, adaptive restraints, which we should talk about, and yet we're the last to now implement them, even though we're the first to have them. And we've got a great organization with our friends at the Insurance Institute, but even they are way behind on technology. They're using a 40-plus-year-old crash test dummy. They're looking at a female in the back seat and only looking at, rib deflection. The reality is the injuries we're seeing with a woman are significantly different. They include lower legs and abdomen injuries that we're not even looking at. The Insurance Institute is also not. So where they've been a really useful resource to make change, like for the small overlap or offset crash, since then, they haven't introduced anything new that's incorporating new technology, new equipment, and newer crash test dummies.
I was really happy when they revised the side impact test to get the striking mass to simulate today's vehicles, whereas NHTSA is still using one that simulates 1980 vehicles. That there are very few of those on the road anymore. So I mean, they are making, I think, really good strides. But yeah, there's just so much to be done, and they don't have the power to do a lot of the things. But so I know back when I was in charge of occupant restraints, TRW, now ZF, we'd run simulation where we'd run like thousands of combinations of restraint technology and occupant positioning, venting on the bags, output of the inflator to find the optimum for that particular vehicle model that we were developing for. And then, of course, then we had to confirm it by running crash tests with dummies, et cetera. And I mean, we have the tools to do so much of this, but if it's not required, it's not going to see its way into the vehicles typically. So.
And a group like the Insurance Institute could move a lot faster than NHTSA because they can decide to do something and do it, and it was refreshing to see that in the past, and I hope they come back and do that
I think
more
their
in the
30
future.
by 30 program is, hopefully they're going to make some headway there, and I'll be talking to David Harkey later at our meeting here as he's one of our speakers. I'm looking forward to that, but again, it's a great time to be in auto safety. This meeting allows us to come together, meet the speakers, try to come up with ways of moving the needle forward and just discussing the latest technologies. And so I'm hopeful that we're going to do that again today.
Well, I'm confident that will continue to move the needle forward. And we need to think about the fact that, you know, a 1980s crash test dummy in a driver's seat, or even one in a passenger seat, is just a version of one person, right? One size, one person.
Right.
The introduction of the THOR-05F female, and importantly, to put also in the driver's seat and also in the passenger seat, allows us at least two. Now, having two or more, I'd like to see 5 or 6, but 2 then starts the opportunity for us to have adaptability. Now, within the Auto Safety Council, we all know we have the features, we have the technologies for adaptable airbags and seat belts and restraints and everything that goes with that. And so then if we have a male with different injuries than a female, and those different injuries, we could actually adapt the car so that it's safe for everybody. And right now it's not safe equally for everybody. And so that would be the next place we need to get to. We really need to get to adaptable restraints so that if my mother, my brother, my sister, my daughter, my grandchildren are in a car, we actually have the same level of safety for everybody.
Yeah, without a doubt, in the occupant restraints arena, there's a lot of tools in the tool belt, shall we say, where you can tweak the inflator or the bag or shapes or et cetera. We just need the input. You know, what is their size? What is their mass? What is their gender? Where is the seat? Are they belted or not?
Which we have.
Which, you know.
It's already available. We have cameras inside the car. We know weight sensors. We know where the seat position. We know how much the belt is out. All that information is available. And now we have to use that information to make people safe.
Absolutely. It's there. We know how to do it, but there's no regulation. There's no requirement. It's just sitting there waiting for someone to have the will to make it happen. And I'm really hopeful that, like you said, the new administrator at NHTSA, Congress, someone is going to say, we hear you, let's fix this.
Yeah. Well, change is never easy. And so we are a group of change agents who are out there saying, what can we do every day to make a difference? And we should never give up until we can make a difference.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Thanks,
nice
Chris.
to see you.
Pleasure.
Thank you for your time.